Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Love Learns. We're back again with another episode. This week we are going to go into a completely new, different Netflix show. This week we're going to start talking about Perfect Match. Now all the seasons are out. I thought I can do like a breakdown on different parts of the season and different couples within the season, because it was a very interesting one. If you've not watched Perfect Match is a Netflix dating show based on people who have been on different various shows on Netflix. So you've got Love is Blind, you've got Too Hot to Handle, you've got The Trust, you've got The Mole, you've got different shows, but they're all like reality stars really. And in this season we have like a different range of people from different shows and different backgrounds, and the aim of the show is for them to find someone that they can call their perfect match. So they go on dates, they match up with different people, they live in the house together, and at the end of every night they have to match up with someone to share the rest of the day with. So they'll do activities with, they'll do which is like a compatibility challenge every time to get favour in order to go into the boardroom to rematch people or rematch themselves within the series, to kind of change the dynamic within the team. So the new people will come in at the end of the dates, and they will have to rematch. Everyone will have to rematch with someone. You either rematch with who you came in with, who you were matched with before, or if you find someone new and you want to rematch with them because your old partner isn't compatible with you, then you have that as well. So it's a really interesting show, interesting dynamic. There is a different dynamic to it because they're all reality stars. I think it does give a slightly skewed version because they're already used to cameras and fame and knowing what to do for the camera in order to build attraction to the show. In the very first episode we see a lot of people meeting at the beginning and seeing the dynamics of everyone. Some of them have met before because they're from the same show but different seasons. Some of them have met through the Netflix like kind of line of work and stuff. So it's a very interesting show because you get to see how reality stars interact with each other, and you also get to see their idea of love and fame and how that all matches up. So that was the very first episode. We see Dominique, who was from Too Hot to Handle, and we see Bryant, a match at the end of the night, and Bryant was from the Squid Games challenge on Netflix. Dominique from Too Hot to Handle always had the persona of being someone who's quite promiscuous and loves to be with someone. And with Bryant from his show, we see him being very competitive and does things for himself and is very, I wouldn't say self-centered, but I'd say very much he does what's best for him in any situation within Squid Games. So when they come into Perfect Match and they match up, we see different dynamics of this. So we see Dominique very attracted to the look of Bryant. She doesn't know much about him, much about his show, but she knows that he's a good-looking guy. She's attracted to him and the way he looks. And Bryant, from the very beginning, notices that she's attracted to him and says he he's only in this game to win, really. So in his eyes, perfect match isn't about the perfect match, it's about winning the game. So they already have two very different ideas of what this show is going to give them. Because in Dominique's VT, she also mentions that her therapist says she's addicted to toxic relationships, and she has a pattern with going with guys who are quite toxic for her. But Bryant, we don't hear much about his experience with therapy or anything. So we do get a sense of, oh, she's working on herself, but we don't really know what his agenda is other than to win. So it's a very interesting dynamic between the two from the very beginning. And after they've matched, we see them go to the room, and they're the first couple to have a big argument within the room. And when we watch them interacting, it's about like who's better than who in this argument, who thinks like, yeah, who's better than who. Because Brian asks, oh, do you work out? And she says, oh no, like I do yoga. And he's like, oh, that's not a workout. So there's already a sense of Bryant trying to prove his superiority to Dominique, and has an idea of, oh, I need to one up, or I need to be better than. So Dominique too is kind of like, that's a workout for me, so it's a workout. So she's just sticking to what she believes her ideas are. But it's an argument that makes no sense, because it's not bringing any depth to their understanding of each other. It's just kind of like, I think one thing, you think one thing, I need to be right, so I'm going to stick by my guns, which is always a disaster when it comes to relationships and matches. But we know that Brian isn't in this for a relationship, he's in this to win. So we know that he's always going to have a competitive mind streak. So his mind is, I need to win this argument. So when you see people like that, you think, big red flag, like stay away from this kind of person, because it's not about, you can have a competitive streak, but if that competitive streak is also showing up in just you being a human being relating to other human beings, then there's always going to be an argument or a disagreement, because you're both always finding the competitive side in each other. Which that was the first like red flag I saw in that relationship. I was like, this is not gonna work. This is not gonna be a good time. And even the housemates started to like mention it and say like, it's the first night, how are you already arguing? Like you haven't even known each other for 24 hours and you're already arguing. So that was an interesting take from the beginning. And then we go back into the next day. Everyone wakes up and goes into the compatibility challenge, and we see what the task is. And the task is they have to move a heavy metal like bar over like a railroad track, and they have to get from one side to the other end, and the fastest couple who does it wins. As we know, Bryant is very competitive, so he goes straight into, I'm going to do this, we're doing this. And Dominique was like, I think the best way for us to win is this way. You stand here, I stand here, and then you do this, and this. So she's describing what to do with her words, and telling him exactly what to do. He goes and asks her, oh, what's your major? Like, did you go to uni? What's your major? And then we start to see him like try to knock her down, because his idea of how to win has just kind of been like dismissed, and her idea to win sounds more logical, but he doesn't want to go with that because he doesn't think that she's on the same level as him from the get-go. Like we can see that he's always thinks he's superior to her. So he tries to bring her down by like mentioning, okay, so what's your criteria for this? What's your thinking around this? And she says she's an engineer, and he's like, oh, so it kind of shuts him up. But instead of him just doing what she says, he tries to do his own way. It doesn't go to plan. And then he looks to his side, sees someone else is winning with a different strategy, which was the same strategy that Dominique said. And he starts doing that strategy because someone else is doing it and it works. So he's going to also do that to win. And then we see they end up losing by a small fraction. And he was like, oh, we only won because I started copying what they were doing. And she's like, no, that's what I was trying to explain to you from the beginning, but you weren't listening, and you weren't listening when we even started. And she's getting frustrated because she can see that he doesn't think she's good enough to be listened to. And there is a superior kind of dynamic in this relationship. He needs to be right. And she's starting to recognize this in this setting. And she gets frustrated because she's trying to express that, like, if you had listened to me and if we had worked together, we would have gotten further. But in his eyes, no, we couldn't have gotten any further, because the only reason we got further is because I was doing something that was seen. In this situation, I think what happened in the breakdown of communication is, one, Bryant saw himself as the superior person in this relationship, so disregarded what Dominique was saying. Secondly, I think there was also a disconnect between Dominique's learning style and Bryant's learning style, and how Dominique was also describing what needs to be happening. It seemed like Bryant's idea of learning is seeing things visually. So when he saw Harry doing what he was doing, it made it easier for him to put two and two together and do that thing. But even doing that thing, he didn't connect it to what Dominique was saying. So Dominique was very clear in what she was saying, don't get me wrong, but his receiving of that was not as clear as what he needed to hear. So it made it very hard for him to reconnect, like that, oh, this is what she was saying, and this is what, because he already thought, I've already dismissed what she said, so what she said was invalid, even though what she said was exactly what was being shown to him through Harry's actions. And then when we see them having the argument after the fact, and Dominique is getting very frustrated with not being listened to, you can see in her eyes, she's starting to see, he doesn't see me as a equal, he sees me as less than. So if he sees me less than, I am never going to be able to match up to him, even though I'm trying to explain to him it's the same thing. Maybe you didn't understand. Maybe I wasn't explaining it to you in a way that you could see it because you don't learn that way. Or giving her space to be like, okay, maybe that's what you said, but in the whole time it's like, your way was wrong, my way was right. My way was wrong, so we both had to find a way to make it right, and my way was right, without really acknowledging what she had said before the game. So with these kinds of people, there's no winning with them in that sense. It seems like he is so fixated on winning that, like, everyone else is opinions and matters do not matter to him. As long as he is winning, that's it, and he needs to be on top. And throughout the episode, we see that his thing is, if I'm not winning, then there's a situation. So when they come back to the house and he's left and they've kind of finished the game, and Harry and Elise come back to tell them who they're sending on a date, Dominique is being sent off on a date, and we then see a part of him where he realizes, oh, I'm vulnerable now. I'm gonna like, I could lose my spot in this house. But his idea of losing a spot means he loses the game. So in that instance, we see him go straight into, oh my God, I need to put my game face on. I need to come up with a strategy in order for me to stay in this house. And that's what happens. He puts a strategy in place and realizes, oh, it's not working. Like, I can't stay in this house because she's off on a thingy, so I need to come up with a second plan. And then we know when Dominique goes off onto her date, she's kind of already realized where she's at. And she's ready for a change because she knows that this relationship isn't equal. And because she's done work with her therapist to notice these signs, she's realizing, no, this is going to be a toxic relationship, so I'm going to stay away from this. Which is good for her because she's recognizing her own patterns and recognizing what's good for her, what's not good for her. So in this episode of just this couple, I think we can learn that communication can also be misrepresented in some situations where, yes, you are trying to express yourself, and because there is a power dynamic between the couple, it makes it harder for the information to be relayed on. So when you are picking a partner, sometimes just looks is not going to be good enough. And even though that's the first thing we're attracted to, but getting to the conversations, which I think Dominique rushed to make a decision, like, I'm having that, so I'm going for that. When they were at the mixer, she didn't really get a chance to explore that kind of characteristic about him. He would have had to match with someone anyway, so it would have been what it was. But it was a very interesting dynamic between the two, and we could see both of them getting frustrated just because of a mentality of one person in the couple. So if you do start to see a red flag like that, I would say, girl or guy, leave the relationship. Or because she really tried to explain to him, like, we need to be on the same page, we need to be talking. Like, she tried to express herself, but it still wasn't landing. And because of that, Bryant got, like, they didn't have a chance to explore the relationship. This is just based off the first episode. I haven't even gone into the next episode where she does go on a date and stuff, but we just know that she's gone on a date and Bryant is vulnerable at the end of this episode. So this is a very interesting dynamic between the two of them. But we also see in the next episode, when she does go on a date and come back, his thing is he needs to downplay the competition, who is Chris, that is Dominique's new date. He needs to try and, like, bring him down a few pegs so that he can still be superior than him, which comes up in a very vulgar conversation about foreskin, which is just, like, crazy. And he tries to belittle him by, like, chanting, like, show us, show us, show us, show us. Like, it's very, like, degrading. And he tries to put people down. So it's not just women that he's putting down, he's also putting his own, like, a man as well down. So for him to feel secure, he needs to always be, like, on top, which is probably where he gets his competitive streak from, which just makes it seem like he needs to do some work on himself in order for him to recognize these things about him. And I know this is a TV show, so it could just be a persona that he's putting on, and I don't know him or Dominique, so I can't give weight to who they are as people. But just from the TV show, we can see that there is a sense of insecurities around not being good enough, which shows up when you're in relationship with other people and when you're with other people. That's why I'm saying there's certain parts of you, you never know who you are until you're in relationship, because that's when those parts of you start to stand out, which you can work out in therapy, you can work out in groups of people or communities. But when you're not in those kinds of communities, you can't recognize it because it's not there. That's why we always say no man is an island, and that is so true. We need people in order to figure out the different parts of us that we have. But in this situation with Brian, we see a very unhealthy part of him when it comes to relationships, and his feeling inadequate. When it comes to always wanting to be the best. When he does come back and Dominique doesn't pick him and he's sent off, he's kind of like, well, I'll be back and I'm going to show them that I'm going to win this kind of thing. So he doesn't take any accountability for his part that he played in the whole situation. He sees it as Dominique was the problem, so he doesn't need to take any responsibility for that. So that is the way it ends, which is a very interesting part of like the show, because we do see him later on in the show come back, but his aim is to get back into the game. It's not for the relationship, it's not for him exploring different parts of himself or trying to figure out how to get into a relationship, which we do see with other people in the villa. Even though they're all reality show stars, they all show up differently, and how they see love is also showed up differently. How they see romantic relationships also shows up differently. So I think with time and in different settings, we might see Bryant to be completely different. But when it comes to a competitive game and love, I think he's always going to pick the competitive game. So I wonder how he would react in a show like Love is Blind, where the ultimate aim is to find love and find marriage, whereas with Perfect Match there's an element of competitiveness in there, so it kind of fed more into his competitive nature rather than him finding a romantic connection. So with Dominique, we see her still trying and working out what's best for her throughout the season, but we know, she realizes her match isn't in the house and she still needs to do some work on herself. So with all of that said, we kind of see like the relationship dynamic between the two and how to spot kind of some dynamics within relationships when it comes to communication. So on that note, I'm gonna like wonder, and if you were in that situation that Dominique and Brian was in, do you think you would have had the openness to communicate like Dominique did, or about what she thought was the best way forward? Or would you have a mindset of, I need to see something before I can understand it? Where do you learn? How do you learn? And how can that learning improve your relationship, or not just in romantic relationships, but also in the workplace or with friends? And how can that be something that you can use for your benefit in the future? I would love to have conversation and discussions with you all. So if you do have any thoughts on this, please put in the comments so that we can have a good chat. I'm always looking for interactions that I can like have an opportunity to speak to you guys. But on that note, I'm gonna love and leave you guys. So if you have made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching, and I just really appreciate you for being here and being on this journey with me and learning with me. So on that note, I'll see you guys all next week. Take care. Hope you enjoyed the episode, guys. Bye.